Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss the second part of Module 5 Civil Engineering Project Management of S8 students. As we have discussed in the earlier session, this module is divided into two. The first part being discussed in the last lecture, which was material management, and the second part is safety in construction. Like I have said, being civil engineering graduates or civil engineering students, we are mainly dealing with the safety in construction site, mainly in our civil engineering aspect. So coming into the detail, first we have to analyze or understand why we need to have or why we need to incorporate safety in construction. And if we break down the number of fatalities according to the type of accident in the construction industry, we could see that 56% of the fatalities are mainly by falling from the height. Statistics tells that 21% are by trapped by something collapsing or overturning. 10% of the accidents occur when they are struck by a moving vehicle. 5% when they are in contact with electricity or electrical discharge. 4% struck by a flying or falling object during machine lifting and materials. 3% with moving machinery or material being machined. 1% exposure to a hot or harmful substance. So from this it is very clear that around 77% of the fatalities or accidents are mainly by when people falling from a height or when they get trapped by something collapsing or overturning. So from this we will be able to identify which is the area of risk or which is the area where there are issues in safety in construction and which are the areas which we have to monitor so that the risk in construction can be eliminated. Around 77% is being accommodated from these two heads. And this is a newspaper cutout from Indian Express, and in this it is mentioned that the accidents at workplaces in India are underreported, around 38 per day in construction sector. So it has been shown that there are many accidents taking place in India, maybe under the 77% head or the remaining percentage, but those are underreported. Around 48,000 workers die in India due to occupational accidents, of which 38 fatal accidents takes place every day in the construction sector. They are not reported, so we are not ready or we are not actually aware about the correct number we are available with. So this is a major issue in which India is having an issue. So we will be seeing in detail what are the methods or what are the construction safety measures which are to be taken into consideration. So what is the need for safety? And if we are able to understand what is the need for safety, we have to understand, we will be able to understand what is the risk in the site. So if you are able to properly map what are the risks involved in the construction site, then we will be able to make the counteract to make the site risk free. So this is what we are going to discuss in this area. We'll be going to clearly identify which are the areas of risk in the construction site and which are the methods by which this risk can be avoided. So construction is highly accident prone industry, like we have been substantiated in the last slide. We can say that the construction is a highly accident prone industry, and working in a fearless protected environment makes the team to be more productive and efficient. So consider ourselves, if we are working in an environment and if we are not provided with proper any kind of good safety measures, we will be fearful, we will not be free to work with our efficiency, with our productivity. So if the workers are provided with a good fearless protected environment, and if we are able to make them feel that they need not worry anymore, then they will be working with their full efficiency and productivity. So therefore safety is one of the vital issues in the success of the project. So safety is not only based upon their accident or reducing the accident rate, but also increases the success rate of the project. So if we are able to provide a good safety measures and good feeling of safety to the workers, we can ensure that the number of accidents or accident rate decreases. At the same time, the success rate of the project increases. Safety program ensures the workers to be mentally and physically prepared to execute a job quickly, fearlessly and efficiently. Safety is a way of life, must be a part and parcel of every individual at every time during the performance of an activity. It should be made a routine work. A worker who comes to the work, even though he feels that this work is not a riskful one, but he should be made aware that he should suit up with the safety kit or the safety equipments before he goes to the work. That is very important for any construction site. So that should be made a routine part of their life. Everyone who comes to the site suits up his safety kit and then he goes to the work. So that makes them fearless. They feel that they are in a protected environment, they work in a protected safety environment. So that makes their work more efficient and productive, which increases the success rate of the project. So overall saying, these are the need for safety. Then we will be seeing why we need to have an accident prevention program. We will be explaining this in 4 aspects. The first one is safety of personnel. Second one is safety of materials and equipments. Third one is safety of structure. And the fourth one is management considerations. So this is mainly aimed at reducing the number of accidents and thereby, like I said, the cost of production and increasing the success rate of the production. First one is safety of personnel. We know that the persons who are involved in a construction site activity or a project, we have to ensure their safety to reduce the human life sacrificed, to reduce the injuries to workers, to prevent the employee from the sufferings. All the human resources involved with the construction site, we have to ensure their safety, which comes under the safety of personnel. Next one is safety of materials and equipments. Like we know that we may be equipped with or we will be using a large number of equipments which are highly costly in nature. So we have to avoid their damage. At the same time, we have to reduce the loss or spoilage of materials. Then only we can reduce the cost of the production. So this is also very important. Along with the safety of the human resources, we have to take into consideration the safety of other resources, which can be materials and equipments. Next one is the safety of the structure. We have to ensure a minimum cost of construction. At the same time, the most important thing is a good quality of construction should be maintained, because we have dealt with the safety of the personnel, we have dealt with the safety of equipments and material. So the structure or the output of our construction site or project must be of good quality, so that the inhabitants will be ensured with the safety of the structure and better rate of construction. Next, fourth one, management considerations. To create from the perspective of management, to create a good reputation, good name, to eliminate compensation insurance, to create a margin of profit, to generate confidence and trust of employees. So this is mainly based upon 2 aspects. Management considerations has got its considerations on the client side, which is explained by providing a good reputation, to eliminate compensation insurance, to get a margin of profit. At the same time, they are concerned with the employee side also, to generate confidence and trust of employees. Without the trust and confidence of employees, they will not be able to succeed in future and also in future construction sites. So they have to ensure their confidence and trust of employees. At the same time, if you get good quality, good reputation, then only they will get more works in future. So these are very important in this aspect. Causes of accidents. We know that an accident is an unplanned incident involving injury or fatality. So we'll be saying what are the major causes of accidents. And the first one can be technical causes, which is further classified into mechanical factors and environmental factors. Then we have the human causes and we have the management factors. We'll be saying this as a whole, what are the major causes of accidents? So first one is mechanical factors. Mechanical factors signifies the unsafe conditions, reflects the deficiencies in the plant, machinery, etc. So the mechanical factors are listed here: unsafe mechanical design or construction, hazardous arrangements of equipments or tools in an industry, defective devices which has been manufacturing defects or may be defects during its operation, improper material handling, leaking acid valves, etc., lack of monitoring, etc. So these are the major mechanical factors which can cause accidents as a whole. Then environmental factors. Environmental factors signifies the unsafe conditions of work environment, indicating physical and atmospheric condition of the work. So these environmental factors are listed here. It can be low temperature causes shivering, high temperature causes headache, high humidity causes fatigue or discomfort, defective and inadequate illumination causes eye strain, shadow, presence of smoke, dust creates ventilation problems. So the environmental or the physical or the atmospheric factors that can lead to accidents, that can lead a path to the accidents, are being explained here. Next one is the personal human factors, human resources, signifies the unsafe acts by persons concerned are due to ignorance, carelessness, etc. So these personal human factors are listed here: lack of knowledge and skill, improper attitude towards work, carelessness and inattentiveness, emotional instability, improper use of safety devices. So next one on the management factors. Management factors signifies the carelessness on the part of the management towards the concern of safety. They will not be much concerned about the safety in a construction site, so they will be providing least importance for that. Non-availability of safety devices like helmet and safety belts, lack of safety instructions and training, lack of recruitment of technically incompetent workers, and rapid change in character of the work. And the factors that can lead to accidents from the management perspectives are because they are only oriented towards the profit. They are not oriented towards good quality. They are not oriented towards good working conditions of the workers, trust and confidence of the workers. They are only oriented to profit, which makes them leading to accidents. Then what are the salient features of a safety program? Like we have said earlier, we have to understand, we have to properly mask what are the risks involved in a site, or which area are the risk involved area in a site. From that we have to make the counteract, which means that we have to create some methods so that this risk involved can be eliminated. So these are the safety programs which are commonly used, which is comprised of 4 E's. First E for engineering, second E for education, third E for enlistment, and fourth E for enforcement. The engineering E stands for safety and design, which means that whenever a product or a methodology is being designed, it has to provide greater importance for safety. So if safety is being practiced in the engineering phase itself or design phase itself, which acts as a base for in which the workers or the management or any person involved with the construction can use that. Second one is education. So if we have done safety and design, next step is to educate or understand people about the importance of safe practices, and everyone should be properly aware about that. Next one is enlistment, and this is very important. So for example, if a worker comes to the site and if he is doing to do that job in a safer place, for example for today, but still he understands the need for safety in the work and the need for awareness in the work, he will be ready to suit up the safety kit. And if the person is not willing to do that, he should be made aware about that. So that comes around in enlistment, attitude of employees and management towards safety program and its purpose. We usually see type of mock drills or kind of work usually carried out in certain large companies, and people should be properly aware, and they should be positive towards these mock drills and other type of safety programs so that in case of some emergencies it can be useful for them. Likewise, the people should be properly aware, maybe mainly their management and employees, about the safety awareness or safety requirement. Next one is enforcement. So if we have done safety program at engineering level, education level and enlistment level, now the next one is to enforce it with community or society. So it should be ensured that there should be strict rule that this rules and regulations or safety programs are properly monitored or properly practiced. Adherence to safety norms, rules and practices. So this program on the whole is mainly to discover when, where and why accidents occur, to understand when, where and why the risk occurs, and this is based upon the assumption that most works connected accidents can be prevented. Arrest the reasons, like we have said, mapping the risk and counteract. So provide safety equipments and training to employees. This is a continuous process. This follows. This is not particular to one site. This should be followed throughout the construction site. So the safety program, salient features of a safety program is concentrated on this 4 E's. Then the safety management team follows PDCA cycle to ensure the safety at site. First one, P stands for plan, D stands for do, C stands for check and A for act, which is nothing but the same thing we have discussed. The 4 E's. When in the other molecular level, this can be explained as plan, do, check and act. Now we will be going to see about the safety measures at different stages of construction. So under the activities under health and safety management, we have grouped the construction stages into mainly 3. The first one is the pre-construction stage, construction stage and commissioning and handing over stage. So I think most of us will be aware about only safety measures that has to be incorporated in the construction stage alone. But we will be seeing why safety measures are to be incorporated in pre-construction as well as post-construction, which is nothing but pre-construction stage divided into project development, planning for construction, tender action, and the post-construction, which is nothing but commissioning and handing over the stage. The first one is the pre-construction stage. So in pre-construction stage, we will be mainly formulating the plans and methodologies that are to be implemented in the construction stage or the site. So we will see what are the safety measures that has to be taken into consideration in the pre-construction stage. So to be reviewed before the project management process are initiated for the construction stage. So this will be the first point on the safety program that is to be incorporated in the pre-construction stage. It is desirable to access the decisions of the briefing and feasibility stage outputs, such as overall planning and construction methods affecting the health and safety, which may have bearing on construction site. So we will be able to understand in the pre-construction site what are the areas in which there are chances for any kind of risk involved, and we will be able to brief that, and we will be able to understand what are the methodologies that can be formulated so that those risks can be avoided. So this is very important in the pre-construction stage, because we cannot have a plan when we are going for the work, when we are going with fully fledged work during the construction stage. So this plan has to be properly formulated, and that has to be ready to work or ready to be implemented when the construction goes at the construction stage. So the next one is the while the project documents and proposals are reviewed, it should be ensured that it is essential to ascertain time frames and budgets related to health and safety measures, which tells us about we will be having a common budget for the construction. Along with that, we should plan for a subsidiary budget or a secondary budget that is fully dedicated to health and safety measures. So in that, we should not make any compromise. We should be properly ascertaining the time frames, and we will be ascertaining the budget which we can keep relating to the health and safety measures for the particular construction site that is to be starting the next stage. So for example, this may includes the PPE. I think we will be much more familiar with the term PPE during the COVID-19 stage. personal protection kit or equipment which the doctors wear or the all kind of health workers wear when they are dealing with the patients. Likewise, in every construction site or every site, we will be having the personal protection equipment, which is nothing but our safety kit. So we will be able to understand how many kits we have to make available for the workers and what is the budget that can be kept for that. Along with that, what are the signboards? Likewise, all the machinery that is to be required to ensure proper health and safety of the workers comes under this point. The next one is a concise health and safety management system of construction agency shall be properly established. And we know that the work will be providing us tender to the contractor, and the contractor will be bidding the tender, and it should be ensured that the project should clearly communicate the health and safety requirements of the project to the prospective contractors. So any contractor bidding the tender should be properly made aware that he should adhere to the health and safety requirements of the project put forward by the company or the management. Management. So those has to be taken into consideration while they are providing the tender documents. So the next one is the construction agencies may be asked to submit a project specific health and safety plan proposing the methodology for managing health and safety and their capability in completing the project in a safe manner. So whenever a contractor is providing a bidding or providing a tender to the corresponding management, he should not just vaguely tell about what he is going to do, what is his health and safety plan. Instead, he should, or the contractor should, have a properly clear-cut methodology in which he is going to implement the safety and health plan on the site. So he should be able to convince the management about his mode of propaganda or mode of implementation, and based upon that only the tender should be properly awarded. So these are the major pre-construction methods which has to be pre-construction methodologies which has to be practiced in the health and safety aspect. So basically on the planning side, this is also very important prior to the construction site. Now on the construction stage, so this is found to be as the most important one, since the workers are involved in this stage of construction and the risk reaches its peak point. In the pre-construction stage, workers were not involved, it was in the planning phase, and we'll be seeing the post-construction stage, which is nothing but the commissioning and handing over stage. We'll be seeing no workers being involved, only the management people or the project manager is only involved. But in this case, all the workers are involved, and this is the stage of implementation. So this is the most important one. The first one is identifying the aspects of design that have bearing on health and safety during construction stage. So from the first point under construction stage, or the most important stage, we will be identifying the aspects of design, the various aspects of design which require safety measures or health measures to be incorporated, and we will be discussing that along with the workers. Second one, while scheduling the various activities of the construction, making adequate time allowance to carry the work in accordance with health and safety requirements. So we all know about the scheduling of activities. We have already discussed that scheduling of activities, crashing, all those stuff in the first and the second module. And we, as a project manager or a contractor, will be going to reduce the time to a minimum and increase the profit. So when we are going behind that, we'll not be taking into consideration the health and safety status of the workers. So the construction stage safety measures tells us that while scheduling the various activities, we have to take into consideration the health and safety requirements of the workers. So for example, we know that in Gulf countries a lot of workers will be working in the construction site. So it is seen that during the summer time, when there is a large amount of temperature rise, the government provide workers 3 to 4 hours time gap. So the company should not force the workers to do job during those time they have to rest under a shade. But if the company is not going behind the laws and they are making the workers do their job during that time also, then that can create large amount of health and safety issues on the workers. So no continuous work should be should be entertained in such conditions. So the company or during the construction stage has to take into consideration the health and safety requirements that the workers has to have. Third one, reviewing the proposed method statements of various activities, identifying health and safety hazards of activities in the project and assessment of the risk level. And this stage, like we have said, we will be identifying the hazards, which are the points or areas where the risk lies, and what are the risk level, whether it is very critical or non-critical, or which is mild only. So we will be analyzing that properly and making actions according to that. Then if the risk level is unacceptable, it can be acceptable or unacceptable. When it becomes unacceptable, we have to take into consideration additional control measures, including the revision of the work methodology, so that all identified risks are allowed as low as reasonably practicable. Okay, so this tells us about, once we have decided a risk methodology, a methodology for safety and health in the pre-construction stage, and which we are to follow in this construction stage, but we found that still the risk level is higher than the status. So in that cases, we have to modify or include a revision of the work methodology, and we should understand, or we should ensure that all the risk or the risk level is alarmed, which means that it should be as low as reasonably practicable. So risk level for each activity is being encountered or being taken into consideration at this particular point. The next one, planning and establishing the facilities for implementation of health and safety, such as workmen training facility, health center for medical checkup and first aid, access control of employees, etc. So this states that good establishing the facilities should be done such that they should be provided proper training. Health center should be provided, and the first aid kit should also be provided in case of some kind of emergency or some kind of accident. First aid can be utilized properly, and for example, if the worker becomes fatigued or he becomes sick over a period of time, then he has to be monitored first before taking to the hospital. So for that, a health center for medical checkup should be done in the construction site. So all these things has to be taken into consideration. Next one, ensuring that temporary establishments like site offices, workmen camps, toilets, canteens should be based upon relevant statutes and standards. So the standards that are set by the law, for example, like the canteen, the restroom facilities, should be provided as per the law and as per the standards. There should not be any issues for the workers based upon the safety or their health category. So all these temporary establishments should be of good quality and good use for the workers. So those were the major activities, and along with that, I have to tell about one more thing. And the project manager ensures construction agency or the construction agency and the contractor or the construction agencies has to follow that. In case the contractor provides subcontractor, then the project manager of the contractor is the liable person who have to ensure the safety measures of the subcontractors or the subcontracting agencies. So that tells us about the construction stage, and now we'll be seeing the last stage of construction, which is the commissioning and handing over stage, which is nothing but the post construction stage, which is the documentation stage. And during completion and handling over the stage, the effectiveness of health and safety measures and management shall be reviewed for future planning. So they will be reviewing the process from the starting stage to the end stage by activity. They will be reviewing the process, and they will be checking the effectiveness, how effective that method has been, and based upon that they will be providing recommendations. If it is being effective, they will be incorporating that to the further establishments or the further projects, and if there are some deficiency in the effectiveness, then they will be analyzing which part has got the deficiency, and they will be correcting that for the further actions. So experience and recommendations which may be necessary during the operation and maintenance stage of the project shall be documented. So that should be properly documented so that further any issues can be avoided, and further loopholes can be avoided, and good safety and health measures can be implemented in the future works. Now we will be going to see what are the safety measures in different construction works. So these are very general in nature, and which are being explained in the further slides. First one is safety measures for storage and handling of building materials. We know that along with the safety of the human resources, we have to take into consideration other resources also, like building materials, raw materials, equipments, tools. So storage and their handling is also very important, as we have seen in the first part. Material management, each material differs from one side to another, its nature differs, so their storage and handling requires specific care. So safety measures which has to be taken into consideration is being discussed in the first case. Second one, safety measures in construction of elements of a building. Then next one is safety measures in demolition of a building. This, I think we all will be knowing. A few months before, we have seen the demolition of flats in Marad, Cochin, and we have seen what are the safety measures which has been taken for a long period of time for that demolition. Controlled demolition is a method that is being practiced there. Then safety measures for hot bituminous work. Those people who are working in the road tarring, they will be dealing with hot bitumen. So what are the safety measures they need to take into consideration? The safety kit and all. So safety measures for scaffolding, ladders, formwork and other equipments for workers who are working with at very heights. They have to consider the scaffolding, ladders and formwork. Then safety measures for excavation, that is mainly used for foundations in civil engineering aspect. So in case of pile foundation and all, what are the safety measures to be incorporated? Then fire safety in buildings, and this fire safety is important in construction stage while the workers are working, and at the same time it is very important when the inhabitants occupy the space, that is after the construction is being over. Also fire safety is very important. So we will be just saying what are the this parameters or what are the safety measures in detail. Very simple. You can easily understand what are the safety measures. So first one is safety measures for storage and handling of materials stored to prevent deterioration or intrusion of foreign matter, protection against atmospheric effects like sun, rain, sun, wind, etc. So the materials has to be stored properly so that they does not deteriorate. At the same time, there is no intrusion of foreign matter. So we know that what are the common type of materials we commonly used in a construction site: cement. Then we have the aggregates likewise. So we'll be seeing each material by material. First one is a cement placed in stacks not more than 12 bags on raised platform. So they should be placed in stacks one above the other with not more than 12 bags in a particular stack. Then waterproof covering, we know that tarpaulin or some kind of covering will be provided so that in order to prevent it from the dampness. Then 30 centimeter clearance from the wall, which means that no dampness will not come from the wall, adjacent wall. Then protective mask for the workers, we know that it is finely grounded, fine particles, so this can cause breathing problems. So we should ensure that protective masks are given for the workers. Then masonry units, if we take into consideration the bricks, hot burnt bricks, we know that they can be classified into 4 classes. So they have to be stacked according to their class, because one class may be used for good finishing works, other may be used for inferior works. So we have to classify or stack according to that. Then they are stacked on ground not more than 1.5 meter height, because if the height increases, there are chances for this to fall down and they may get damaged. So they should not be kept on a height more than 1.5 meter. Then lime, stored in shed to avoid dampness, not stacked against wall. So dampness is a major issue, so there should be a safety measure against dampness. Storage of unshaked lime is not desirable. Then we have the aggregates. If in a site also, we know that we may be having fine aggregates as well as coarse aggregates. So there should be proper measure so that the fine aggregates and the coarse aggregates does not get mixed up. So they should be stacked separately, and also they should be free from dust and other foreign matter. Then steel, stored to prevent corrosion. Reinforcement must be coated. So epoxy coating should be provided so that they are not get corroded. Then suitable handling equipment for removing heavy steel section for the workers should be provided. So steel sections are very heavy in nature, so for the workers to move them by hand will be very difficult. So equipment should be provided so that it eases their work and increases their productivity. So those were the safety measures in different constructions, mainly in a building, on the materials. Now we will be seeing the next one, safety measures in construction of elements of a building. This mainly deals with the workmen, building and adjoining properties. So here we will be seeing the type and design of foundation should offer safety to the workmen and neighboring properties. So the foundation should be taken into consideration. For example, if we are walking in Cochin, which is a constrained site, in which near to our adjacent to our site we will be having another building which is a large building. So if we are going for some kind of foundation, like deep foundation, like pile foundation, we have to take into consideration the soil strata and other factors, like there should not be any harm to the adjacent building due to that piling or some activities. So the design of foundation and type should be taken into consideration, which offers safety and easiness to the workers at the same time for the neighboring properties. When properly designed and constructed scaffolding unit built by competent workers, the scaffolding in which the workers have to work to stand for a long period of time should be properly made for good quality, making an opening to the existing wall support to be given to the above wall for the above wall portion. Correct order in placing and removal of formwork. So there should be proper interlocking or proper lock between the formwork or scaffolding which is placed. There should not be any margin of error in that. Then sufficient number to handle the fragile materials. So in a construction site we know that there are many fragile materials, so glass materials, so those has to be managed properly by a sufficient number of people. Next, the safety measures in demolition of buildings. So here we will be saying prior to demolition, and we'll be knowing that suitable bracing, shoring against accidental collapse should be provided. Then suitable safety precautions to be taken. We know that in Marad Cochin flat demolition a few months before, we have seen a large number of preparations prior to the demolition date. So it involves, like, we have to remove the fragile materials at the earliest. We have to identify the spots of weakest points, and at which point we have to initiate the demolition. All those factors has to be taken into consideration, and the site plan, where is there in adjacent buildings, there are so many points of risk. All those factors has to be taken into consideration prior to demolition. Then during demolition, fragile materials have to be removed first. Adequate natural or artificial lighting to be provided. Easy exit in case of emergency. Proceed systematically story by story in descending order. So this method, the demolition method, varies from one site to another. So commonly we have seen controlled demolition over in the last few months, so that can change. We have seen that even a small school building near to the one of the flats has not got any deterioration due to this collapse demolition. That is mainly because of the efficiency of the demolition or the advancement in the field of demolition. So next one is safety measures for hot bituminous work. So we know workers working in hot sun with the bitumen, so they have to be equipped with the safety measures so that they does not get sick or they does not get affected by this hot bitumen. Experienced supervisors take care of equipment and tools, keep stock of the fire extinguishing devices and first aid kits. The workers to be provided boots, gloves, goggles and helmets. So we may not have seen workers working with this. Obviously we might have seen gloves and boots, but we may not have seen goggles and helmets. So sufficient amount of clean dry sand available and adequate supply of water should be provided. Workers should to control the traffic system. So this involves everything. Those people who are directly involved in the bituminous work, at the same time those people who are indirectly involved in the bituminous work, which is workers to control the traffic system. So all those workers, all these measures has to be taken into consideration as the safety measures for hot bituminous work. Next one, safety measures for scaffolding, formwork and other equipments. We know that when workers are working at great heights, they have to have proper scaffolding and formwork and other rope and other material, other mechanisms. The scaffolds and working platforms to be fastened to the structure. If independent of a building, they must be guide or based. If scaffolds for a long period, provision of a stairway must be propped. Protective overhead covering should be provided. So ladders in heavy duty work should be less than 6 meter and light duty work should be less than 8 meter, and dismantling and placing should be in proper sequence, so that only skilled persons can only place the proper scaffolding and formwork in an order, and they are all only authorized to do dismantling also. So if it is not properly done, this can cause unstrengthening of the structure or the formwork, and it can cause issues. So this should be avoided. So they should be properly done. Then safety considerations as per IS Indian Standards 3696 part 1 and 2. So the safety measures for scaffolding, formwork and other equipments is based upon IS 3696 part 1 and 2. Then scaffold safety methods for excavation, as I have said, this is mainly dealing with the foundation constructions. This is mainly not as important for shallow foundations. We know that foundations are of two types, shallow and deep. So for deep foundations like caissons, wells, or pile foundations, which is commonly being used, in such cases safety methods has to be taken into consideration. They should be able to understand what is the soil strata before the work starts, and presence of some underground pipes or sewers, and all those things has to be taken into account before the excavation starts. So prior to excavation, complete knowledge of underground structures like sewers, underground pipes, etc. should be studied. When depth exceeds 2 meters, roughly speaking, deep foundation trenches should be shored or timbered. Sheathing on trenches, which means there should be protective casing should be provided, so that there should not be any fall of material from the side. There should not be collapse of material from the sides, so it maintains its shape of the pile or shapes of the trench as the length it goes. So excavated materials to be kept away from the edge of the trench. Heavy boring equipments to be kept away from the sides of trenches because it may cause collapse or due to its weight. A fence or barricade should be properly lightened. So this tells us about the safety measures mainly for the foundation or for excavation, mainly dealing with pile foundation, well, or caissons. Then next one, or the last one, is the fire safety in the building. We know that this is commonly used during construction stage, and at the same time it is equally or more important in the case of after construction phase. So early warning system to give fire alarm to be provided, smoke detector for air conditioned areas, heat sensitive detector for non air conditioned areas. We might have seen in large structures or large buildings nowadays, like commercial buildings nowadays, we have seen the fire safety alarms or some kind of arrangements in which water sprays down when the temperature goes beyond a particular range or particular value. So smoke detector and heat sensitive detector are commonly used. Detectors to be placed on each floor at suitable location. Separate staircase at every 30 meters in addition to the lifts to be provided. Design of structural members must consider the fire resistant ratings, and fire safety of electrical installations are required as per IS code 1664 1982. So fire safety is very important for getting the building permission for large buildings, for educational buildings and other commercial buildings. So this is very important in the case of safety, in the aspect of safety. Now the last topic of this module is implementation of safety program. So we have discussed about the safety requirement of safety, then what are the salient features of safety, and likewise now we will be going how we can implement this concept of safety efficiently in a construction system. For this we will be having around 19 points, of which you must have correct knowledge about at least 12 of them. So this is commonly asked question, so you should have an idea about at least 12. So first one is health and safety policy. We'll be going into detail after listing this one. Project specific health and safety planning, resources, roles, responsibility and authority, competence, training and awareness, health and safety communication, health and safety reporting, operation control, permit to work systems, design and engineering, certification of plant, machinery, lifting tools and tackles, subcontractor management, fire prevention control, access control, then safety of visitors, traffic and logistic management, performance monitoring and improvement, reward and reprimand, promoting a positive health and safety culture, integration with other management system. Now we will be seeing these 19 implementation programs or points one by one. The first one is health and safety policy. So in this one we'll be creating as a whole we'll be creating health and safety policy for the entire construction activity, and that may be in the form of a written statement, which is so that it can be communicated to all the people involved with the construction activity, and so that it is easily understood. Maybe it may be published in a local language. So the formation or formulation of this kind of health and safety policy is the first point. The owner, consultant and contractor stakeholders jointly or separately shall have a written statement prescribing the health and safety policy of the organization. So any construction activity coming under the head should follow this policy, and so this statement should be taken into consideration. So it ensures that the set objectives are met. Then this policy should be properly communicated to all the stakeholders, like I said, and also this should be for easily understanding. This should be maintained, or this should be put forward in a local language so that it can be majorly understood by the lower level of management, mainly the workmen. Second one is project specific health and safety planning. So health and safety policy was taking into consideration as a whole, but this is specific to a particular work. So project specific health and safety planning is put forward by, most probably by, a construction company or construction agency or a contractor, and that is specific to a particular work, developed by the main construction agency and submitted to the owner or client and the consultants for approval. So like we have studied, we'll be providing a subsidiary budget along with the main budget, which deals with the safety and health monetary terms. Likewise, if when we are submitting a particular contract, the construction company will be stating about their methodology in which they are going to implement the safety programs. So that is being mentioned here. This shall be used as a reference document for implementation, control and monitoring of health and safety aspects of the project. And this shall define the roadmap for achieving the standards that an organization lays down. It provides a positive health and safety culture at the project site. So this is mainly proposed by the construction agency or construction company or the contractor to the main client or the owner, and this shall be used as a reference document throughout the entire work time. Next one is resources. Then roles, responsibility and authority. So always we know that there are three styles of management: top, middle and the bottom level. So the responsibility always and authority always lies with the top management. So they have to guide, or they have to monitor the progress of safety program or implementation of the safety program as proposed. So the project manager shall define, document and communicate the roles and responsibilities and authorities of all personnel who manage, perform and verify activities having an effect on health and safety risk. Most probably the top management will be implementing or placing a project manager, and he will be the person who will be defining their roles and duties of each and every person in the company. The ultimate responsibility with the top management. The health and safety department and health and safety officer are responsible for guiding the top management on healthy and safety issues. They provide consultations, and they will be updating them on the safety and health aspects. The fourth one is mainly based upon the training and awareness, also competence. So always the workers should be properly made aware about the importance of the safety program. So this is mainly explained here. There should be a proper training plan and training metrics in which the workers should be made aware. So they are competent to perform assigned work safely on the basis of appropriate education, training and experience. Training is to be incorporated, the safety need to be incorporated as a nature of work. It is to be practiced everywhere by the worker, so it has to be made common to all people. So there lies the importance of competence, training and awareness. Next one is health and safety communication, and this communication is bidirectional. That means that there should be top to bottom communication, at the same time vice versa, from bottom to top. Top to bottom means the top management should be providing the workers with case studies, accident case studies, and also they will be providing with good safety measures, educational programs, awareness programs, etc. for the workers to understand the importance of health and safety. At the same time, the workers should be providing proper feedback on what they have experienced on the field. For example, we always tell about PPE. On COVID-19 also we are aware about PPE, personal protection equipment. For example, the company is designing a PPE and it is being provided, awareness is being made by the company to the workers, and they are handing over the PPE to the workers. The PPE is working efficiently or it has some loopholes or flaws are indicated in the form of feedback by the workers to the top management, and based upon that the top management has to make some certain changes if there are any. So all kind of top to bottom and bottom to top communication is very important, and that is being explained here. Accident case studies, health and safety campaigns, collecting feedback and toolbox meeting should be maintained. Next one is health and safety reporting. So efficient recording and reporting of all the activities that helps in safety and health and safety performance. It should be properly documented. We can see that there can be internal reporting procedures as well as external reporting procedures. Internal reporting procedures means those who are within a company, they will be reporting the health and safety measures on providing the performance data within internally. For example, if some external agencies or external person not directly involved with the company is providing the report, it is said to be as the external report. Next one is the operation control. Operation control mainly deals with the control procedures or control measures that has to be taken into consideration. Always there is a difference between planned performance and actual performance. We know that in the planning phase we have came up with several suggestions to provide a good health and safety policy or propaganda, but we have to analyze whether what is the actual thing that is being done on the ground, whether it is actual performance overrides the planned performance, or the planned performance always keeps above the actual performance, which means that actual performance does not meet the standards. So this has to be taken into consideration in the operation control. This has to be properly monitored also. Bring down the risk level as low as possible, and those measures has to be taken into consideration in the operation control. The next one is permit to work system, and only after proper risk level is maintained at low, then only permission should be given to the work systems. So we should remember the last time we have studied ALARP. The risk level should be asked as low as possible, then only the work should be permitted, and this can be done for the field of excavation, entry into confined spaces, electrical work, opening manholes, working at height, working at night, all these factors, all those situations. Next one is design and engineering, and we have seen in the salient features of safety program 4E's. The first one was design. So in engineering, so we have know that in engineering aspect or design aspect, this should always take into consideration the safety or the health status or the condition or measures always should be taken into consideration, and that should be incorporated in the design features. 10th one is the certification of plant, machinery and lifting tools and tackles, and we know that we deal with a large number of or large sized tools, equipments, cranes, etc. for our day-to-day activities. So those should be properly maintained under proper certification. They should be certified by a legal authorized agency, and at the same time they should be examined by a competent person for the first time, and at the same time and once in every year they should be properly tested and checked whether there is any depreciation or any deficiency or some lacking something or some issues are there. Those should be properly resolved, otherwise it affects the safety of the workers working on with the equipment. So as per the Building and Other Construction Workers Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Service Act 1996, the building and other construction workers should be taken into for their help, and this should be properly tested like we do for AMC, annual maintenance contract. Likewise, they should be properly maintained, they should be properly tested against any kind of flows or something, or those should be properly eliminated or changed, and that is said to be as the next case. Subcontractor management. The past health and the safety performance of the subcontractor who is being awarded the contractor should be properly understood, and based upon that only he should be awarded the work and also other things, other beneficiaries. So the contractor should be subcontracting should be awarded based upon this past performance. So, and also all the safety and health policies should be properly communicated, and it should be ensured that those are properly being monitored. We have discussed that if we are giving, if a particular contractor is giving subcontract to two or many subcontractors, then the project manager appointed by the contracting company or the contractor should monitor the health and safety policies put forward or the methodologies that is being carried out by the subcontractors. So those should be properly communicated and also those should be properly monitored. Next one is fire prevention and control. We have seen the importance of fire safety measures in the construction stage as well as the post construction stage. So we have to take into consideration the importance of fire prevention measures for controlling the ignition source and segregation of flammable materials. So all for that, prior to that, we have to understand what is the places of risk. We have to identify the risk areas and we have to come up with solutions to avoid the chances of risk. So then adequate firefighting facilities should be provided. We have seen certain kind of sensors, their normal kind of first aid materials, fire extinguishers, fire buckets filled with water and sand always should be provided, and they should be easily accessible location also. So this should be in this tells us about the fire prevention and control. Next one is access control, or it can be explained as restricted access, which means that in a site we should have a control of movement of workmen and visitors. Only a required person should go to the required space and do his own job. People should not roam around. For that we have provided the access control, which means that which restricts the entry of unrequired persons to the construction site or to a particular area of a site. For example, those people who are doing designing phase, only the designing people should go to the designing unit or the design major construction office. They should be provided with some entry pass or some barcoded parts or biometric system or fingerprint system like we have seen. Only those, not just a worker should always go and roam around there. So access control ensures that it provides restricted movements and unnecessary movements can be avoided. So it also ensures that competent and trained workers are also deployed for the work. The next one is safety of visitors. So in a construction site we may see that the client may come as a visitor, or the government employees who may come to monitor the work is categorized as a visitor, or students who come for internship is also categorized as visitors. So when they come to the site, they should be provided with good safety and health induction or a training or a briefing before they are allowed to a construction project. At the same time, they should be provided with the safety kit, which is PPE, personal protective equipment should be provided. They should be accompanied by employees. They should not be allowed to roam around the construction site, so they should not be allowed in the hazardous areas also. So those tells us about the safety of visitors. Next one is traffic management and logistics. This is mainly applicable in the case of large sized construction site in which there are large trucks or vehicles coming in and out of the construction site carrying the materials or carrying the personnels. So a proper clear-cut path for their transit or their movement should be made clear to the workers or made clear to the drivers prior to the work starts. Otherwise this may cause congestion or it may reduces the efficiency. At the same time, there are chances for the accidents also if there are any blind zones or any hazardous junctions, so those should be avoided. And if those cannot be avoided, traffic control devices should be initiated or inside the construction site, so those should be properly managed, which comes under the traffic management and logistics. The next one is performance monitoring and improvement, and this tells us that the performance should be monitored both qualitatively as well as quantitatively. So this gets us about helps to understand the clear measuring of the actual performance of the work as compared with the planned performance. At the same time, the measures should be proactive as well as reactive. Proactive means we have to have a backup plan or we have to have a solution even before the issue rises. Reactive means immediately some issue pops up, we should have a solution for that. So this tells us about the performance monitoring and improvement. 17th one is reward and reprimand. So we should properly acknowledge and encourage good health and safety performance by the form of rewards. The rewards may be in the monetary terms like increments, or it may not be so, or maybe it may be non-increment or non-monetary like special recognitions, providing special facilities or entertainments likewise. So those should be always encouraged. It increases the positivity of the workers as well as there increases the efficiency. Also, it is very important that the reprimand towards the repeated violations or non-conformations of and poor health and safety performance should be taken into consideration, which means that if someone violates the rules and regulations, that there sufficient type of or an apt type of punishment or some kind of charging has to be done to the person who violated it, which makes us clear for him that it should not be repeated again in future. So reward and reprimand, so two sides of a coin, is also very important. The 18th one is promoting positive health and safety culture. We have dealt this in the first slides itself. If we provide a fearless environment for the workers to work on, it clearly communicate that the company provides very importance for their safety. So therefore the workers will work in a fearless environment. Therefore it increases their productivity and increases the efficiency, which in turn increases the success rate of the company or the organization. So a fearless and protective environment feeling is being created, and this should be properly reviewed and monitored. It clearly communicates that it considers safety as a core value, and it should not allow it to be get compromised. Such messages, when it reaches down the level in the organization, enable to create a positive and health and safety culture. 19, the integration with other management system, which means that along with the safety program system, we have to work shoulder in shoulder with other management systems like quality management system, environmental management system, project management system. So all the whole, when it comes as an integrated approach only, we can ensure that safety and health is not being compromised in a construction site. That's all about the 5th module. We have dealt with material management in part 1 and safety in construction in part 2. So thank you all.